Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Charlene Aaron. Troubling reports today that the ISIS terrorist organization and al-Qaeda groups are joining forces. This comes as a new internet message surfaces from the ISIS leader, defying suggestions that he may have been wounded in an airstrike in Iraq and taunting American efforts to defeat the group. In his latest internet release, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi called on his ISIS supporters to erupt volcanoes of jihad. In the 17-minute video, he vowed America will be defeated and claimed months of U.S. airstrikes against ISIS, quote, have not prevented its advance, nor weakened its resolve. The al-Baghdadi video surfaced Thursday along with reports that militant leaders from the ISIS terror organization and al-Qaeda met at a farmhouse in northern Syria last week and agreed on a plan to stop fighting each other and work together against their opponents. Political observers believe any pact between the two sides could easily unravel, but it is still a union that would raise new difficulties for Washington and its strategy to defeat the group.
We are seeing steady and sustainable progress along DoD's two main lines of effort.
Still, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel told Congress Thursday, coalition efforts have scored progress against the militants since they began in September, but ISIS continues to represent a serious threat.
As you know, last week, the Defense Department announced that we will expand the support to Iraqi forces by deploying up to 1,500 additional military personnel.
At the same hearing, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff told Congress the U.S. would also consider dispatching a modest force to fight alongside Iraqi troops.
I'm not predicting at this point that I would recommend that those forces in Mosul and along the border would need to be accompanied by U.S. forces, but we're certainly considering it.
Charlene? Meanwhile, the leader of the Islamic State says the organization is going to start making its own money. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has instructed his followers to start minting coins. Al-Baghdadi says he wants a new currency, the Islamic dinar. His aim is to, quote, change the tyrannical monetary system that enslaves Muslims.
Tensions are high as the U.S. pushes ahead with plans for a nuclear deal with Iran. The Obama administration and U.S. allies are offering to end sanctions if Iran agrees to give up the ability to make nuclear weapons. But U.S. lawmakers say if the administration makes a bad deal, they will work to increase sanctions. Meanwhile, Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to stop Iran if the Islamic regime manages to deceive the West.
Netanyahu has said, as prime minister and before he's prime minister, he has said over and over again that Israel will not allow Iran to go nuclear. You have to take him at his word. How they accomplish that without the bunker-busting bombs they need when Iran has hidden all these weapons deep underground, under mountains, it's not going to be an easy proposition, and it is going to be disruptive for the world. But the longer that waits, the more difficulty the world is going to face later on.
The deadline for negotiations with Iran is just 10 days away. Right now, officials are considering extending that deadline.
Russia has deployed warships in a display of force off the northeastern coast of Australia. It comes as Russian leader Vladimir Putin is attending a major summit of world leaders there. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott is pretty angry about it, accusing Russia of trying to reclaim the lost glories of the Soviet Union. It comes after Abbott demanded that Russia cooperate in the investigation of the passenger plane that was shot down in Ukraine in July. Western experts argue Russian rebels shot down the plane using sophisticated Russian surface-to-air missiles.
Mideast leaders have agreed on practical steps to stop the spiraling violence on the Temple Mount. That news comes as U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry meets with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Jordan's King Abdullah in Amman. Kerry says Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas has pledged to stop fueling the violence.
President Abbas strongly restated his firm commitment to nonviolence, and he made it clear that he will do everything possible to restore calm and to prevent the incitement of violence and to try to change the climate. Prime Minister Netanyahu strongly reaffirmed Israel's commitment to uphold the status quo on the Haram al-Sharif, Temple Mount.
Jordan is involved in the talks because it's been the custodian of Muslim holy places in Jerusalem since 1967.
The American Center for Law and Justice is launching a postcard blitz on the White House. The group hopes to bring attention once again to Pastor Saeed Abedini, still imprisoned in Iran.
We don't leave anyone behind. President Obama said that in his speech to the DNC in 2012. And we're at a situation where Iran and the United States are at the nuclear negotiating table. The deadline for those negotiations is supposed to be November 24th. And we believe a very strong message needs to be sent that there should be no deal whatsoever with Iran if Saeed is not home.
Sekulow said that the blitz idea came from a woman named Melody Aguilar, who heard about Saeed and wanted to help. Aguilar owns a printing company and worked with Saeed's wife to provide the pre-written postcards to the public. And to learn more about how you can help, don't forget to visit cbnnews.com.
The U.S. government is using airplanes to spy on American cell phones. The Wall Street Journal reports the Justice Department is using devices on Cessna airplanes that mimic cell phone towers to collect data from thousands of mobile phones. The planes have a flying range that covers most of the U.S. population. According to the report, the device tricked phones into sharing its location data and revealing the phone's identity. The technology enables investigators to collect data from tens of thousands of cell phones in a single flight.
In Maryland, the Montgomery County School Board's decision to scrub religious holidays from the school calendar has sparked public backlash. CBN News anchor John Jessup spoke with Eric Baxter of the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty, who says the move is mistaken on many levels.
There was a group of Muslims who wanted to include their holiday. One of their holidays falls on a day when school is closed. They asked for that, and the school board just made this extreme reaction and decided to remove all religious holidays from the calendar. It's really a head-scratcher. We're talking about a calendar notation, and they seem to think that it's a constitutional violation to mention Rosh Hashanah or Christmas.
Eric, if I understand correctly, the Muslim families only wanted to have their holiday included. They didn't necessarily intend to have all religious holidays scrubbed. So is this overkill?
You know, it's indicative of this confusion out there that somehow any mention of religion is a violation, and that's just not correct. Religion is an important part of our history. It's an important part of our culture, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with a school calendar noting religious holidays. So it really is overkill.
What can parents and students do in Montgomery County to fight back against the decision?
You know, they really should let their voices be heard, and it's important, I think, that we recognize that all people, regardless of their faith, have the right to exercise their religion.
Do you think there's any chance that the Montgomery County School Board will change its decision?
I hope so, because it's really unfortunate when we allow this view that any mention of religion is wrong. It's like we view religion as secondhand smoke, that children must be protected from it at all costs. And that's just not correct. Religion, like I said, it plays a very important role in our culture and in our history, in our society, and we should celebrate that, celebrate the diversity, and ensure that everyone has the right to exercise their faith.
Eric, what do you think that this says in the larger scope of things about religious liberty and religious freedoms in our schools?
Students should be free to express themselves, to share their religion, to exercise their religion on their own, even if it's on school property or during school hours. And school officials just need to relax and let people live their religion in their life.
But what does this say about our culture and our society today when people react so sharply against any mention of religion?
I think it speaks to the need to study more and to understand more and to celebrate religious freedom and religious diversity and allow it to flourish.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that I didn't touch on?
I just hope that the Montgomery County officials will recognize that there's really no harm in allowing religion to be expressed in public life, and that we can celebrate the diversity of religion in our society.
Well said. Eric Baxter, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Church leaders in Wisconsin are celebrating a legal victory. A federal appeals court threw out a challenge to a law that gives tax-free housing allowances to clergy. The challenge came from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Leaders of the atheist group say the ruling was cowardly and that the court dismissed it without ruling on its merits. Luke Goodrich from the Beckett Fund of Religious Liberty says, quote, when a group of atheists tries to cajole the IRS into raising taxes on churches, it's bound to raise some eyebrows. The court was right to send them packing. The Alliance Defending Freedom says the housing allowance comes from church money, not public funds.
Up next, art for the soul, how one church is reaching creative hearts on a whole new level.
Picasso, world-famous painter, once said, "Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life."
That's right. And I recently visited a church in Boise, Idaho, where that truth is playing out today. Vineyard Church is using art to bring God's healing truth to the lost and hurting in the city. Jessie Nilo has been a passionate artist for as long as she can remember. It's a love she longed to share with members of her Vineyard Boise church family.
I was at the time going to college for art, and as I was growing artistically, the chasm in my heart grew because I was growing spiritually at one location and growing artistically at a different location, and the two worlds never intersected. And so it left me feeling pretty frustrated because I could never talk about God with my art friends, and I could never talk about art with my church friends.
So she began thinking about starting a ministry for fellow artists at her church, something she admits she knew very little about.
I honestly didn't know, except that we could talk about things that were meaningful to us. And we could see, because I didn't know, so we could see how those two areas in our life could intersect. That's really all I had. And maybe we could make some Sunday school posters or something.
Fast forward 10 years. Today, Nilo oversees Vine Arts at her church, a ministry complete with a studio and art gallery. Professional and amateur artists are encouraged to explore and develop their God-given creativity through workshops and other hands-on opportunities. This backdrop was painted by a group of the ministry's budding artists.
This is a place of safety. It's a place of spiritual growth, and Jesus is our focus. The Holy Spirit has infinite creativity, and we're tethered to His Spirit, and He's going to increase our creativity as individuals.
This art gallery located inside Vineyard Church highlights the work of artists from both inside and outside the church. Its purpose is to encourage people to reflect and contemplate about life and to worship God, the greatest creator of all. Sherry Cofield says the arts ministry helped her find healing from an abusive past. Today, she uses the same tools to help others heal.
For me, it became not about the art, but about the relationship and about love. And so there's something about doing art that really loosened these people up. And they would start talking about their lives and their problems, and then we can introduce the love thing, right? And so for me, now when I create, I'm more freer in my art, but I'm having a conversation with the Lord as I'm creating.
It's a real feeding ground for creativity, and people who are broken and shattered, whether they're dealing with depression or addictions or just grief, they find a lot of solace here, and they can find that healing. They have caring people that they can just spend some time with when they walk in.
Vine Arts includes photographers, painters, and more. The ministry was a big draw for Brad and Debbie Keefe, who moved here from California just to take part. And while the big emphasis on the arts is what inspired them to come, they say the spiritual climate is what affected them most.
See, they have Bible studies in here, so this isn't necessarily just the arts.
When we got here and we met the people and saw so many creatives, we just felt at home. So we packed up everything and away we came. We've been happy since we've been here. We've been never looked back.
Nilo says the ministry also appeals to the unchurched, who are welcomed with love and no pressure.
A lot of times they'll end up, checking out the church and going deeper in that way with their discipleship. And it's okay if they don't too. They still have us, and who else is praying for those people?
Absolutely amazing place. Beautiful. Actually, as you can see there, I kind of tried my hand at painting. We won't show that, but it was fun.
God is the great artist. Nice to see. We should all think about how we can use our talents for the kingdom.
Creativity. Amen.
Much needed.
And for more on the Vine Arts Ministry, log on to our website at cbnnews.com.
Coming up, your digital download. See the new apps that can help you share your faith and draw you closer to God. welcome to this edition of the Digital Download. And today it is all about that app. Yes, and in part it's because you have asked for it. And joining us now is Caleb Kinchel, our social media and digital contributor. Caleb, what you got?
So, well, this first app was suggested to us by one of our viewers, Stephen L. in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Now, Ephraim, oftentimes it can be difficult to put your faith into words.
Indeed.
Well, this app helps you with that, and it's called Dare to Share. Now, what's interesting about this app is that it's based off of a spoken word by the artist Propaganda.
This is the gospel. God, our sins, paying everyone life.
That's life in 6 words. So how does the Dare to Share app work?
First off, it has 5 different points. Why to share, what to share, how to share, plan to share, and share now.
Of all those, what do you think is the most useful?
The most useful part would probably be the how to share, because it gives you insight into other people's belief systems so that you can kind of get the conversation going and even find similarities.
So what's the next app?
All right, Ephraim, the next app is called Go Tandem. Now, these guys did a lot of research. They surveyed 100,000 people in 20 countries over the course of 7 years.
Wow, a lot of research. What did they find in all that research?
Well, they found that the dominant factor in people's spiritual growth were people that engaged in the Bible at least 4 days out of the week, minimum.
Yeah, okay, engaged in the Bible. So hug it, sleep with it under my pillow. What does that mean, engaging my Bible?
By engaged, it simply means people that will read, reflect, and then respond in some kind of way.
It sounds like the keys to breaking a bad habit.
You know, it actually is, because according to their research, they found that in order to break a bad habit, you need about 3 key things.
Okay.
Motivation, it means that you just want to do it. You need tools, so we're talking about smartphones, tablets, these are our tools. And then you need a trigger, or like a bell to kind of remind you.
An alarm.
Yeah, an alarm. Okay. So Go Tandem functions like the alarm that you're missing for their spiritual growth.
How exactly does it work to do that?
Yeah, very simple. Basically, you start off with a spiritual profile. Okay. So you take about 6 questions about, who you are, what you're dealing with, and then from there, it creates a profile on you. Now, once you get your profile, it will send you short stories and verses to encourage you throughout the day.
All right, that's pretty good. So, Caleb, what's the third and final app?
Third and final app is called iDisciple, and this is actually $4.99 a month for a subscription.
All right, so this one's going to cost you. The other 2 are free. Tell me, what's this app involved?
Well, think of this app like the IKEA of Christian content.
All right. How so?
How so? This app has 75,000 bits of content updated.
So tell me about this content. What is it?
Well, similar to Go Tandem, you create a spiritual profile. Based off that profile, instead of just giving you Bible verses or encouraging stories, you're getting top sermons from some of the best speakers. You're getting podcasts. You're getting a streaming music service without any commercial interruptions. You're getting contests. So just tons more content.
So it's kind of like whatever the best way is for you to learn or grasp something, it's got it.
Right. So if you're trying to learn and trying to grow, this app is definitely one for you to check out.
All right. That's going to do it for this edition. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Caleb Kinchlow, and this is your Digital Download.
The weekend is here, so you may be looking for a little family-friendly entertainment. And here with our regular movie reviews is Bob Waliszewski from Plugged In Online. That's the entertainment review department at Focus on the Family. Hey, Bob, what's in the theater this weekend, and what should families know?
Well, Charlene, there's 3 PG-13 movies out this weekend. You would think that one of them would be ripe for families. Dumb and Dumber 2, you probably wouldn't think that would be, and definitely not. In fact, I saw the first one, and it was out of bounds, but this one really should have been R-rated for at least 2 scenes that were just way over the top. Then there's a film called Beyond the Lights. It's kind of a fictional Beyonce-ish story about a singer who falls for a guy on the other side of the tracks. Unfortunately, their relationship is pretty well grounded in what goes on in the bedroom, so it was a real disappointment. And finally, there's a movie called The Theory of Everything, the story of Stephen Hawking, the physicist. Actually, I liked this film until about the last 10 minutes. I mean, it was like, okay, I like it. His wife, Jane, is a saint in this movie until the end when she leaves him for another guy. And being the atheist that he was, Stephen gets the final word for his atheist theology, which is a bit of a battle going on between she believes in God, he doesn't, but he gets the final say at the end of the movie, which was disappointing as well. So 3 PG-13 films, can't recommend any of them.
Wow. Well, what about Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas hitting theaters this weekend? That's probably a good one for families, right?
Yeah, there's no content issues at all in Kirk Cameron's film, as you might imagine. And Saving Christmas is actually it's saving Christians who don't want to celebrate Christmas from going overboard. So if they say, oh, I can't do a Christmas tree because it's pagan, or we won't mention Santa Claus in our house because it's just wrong, Kirk actually comes and says, no, lighten up a little bit. But here's a little bit about Kirk Cameron. I hate to say him. I know Kirk. I met Kirk. I like Kirk. I like what he does. But I kind of thought that this was about 30 minutes of a TV special, and it's a 69-minute movie. There was a lot of slow dialogue, extra content like music videos thrown in at the end to kind of make the film a little longer. I was a little bit disappointed with that. No content issues. People want to go see it. But I'm not the strongest fan of Saving Christmas.
All right, Bob Waliszewski, as always, thank you so much, sir.
You bet.
All righty then. That is going to do it now for CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day and God bless.